Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Betty. I'm the president of StoryLab. We want to welcome you to Using Storytelling for Organizational Impact. If you are unfamiliar, StoryLab is a student-run organization out of Hopkins Advanced Academic Programs. We truly believe in the power of storytelling for connection, for communication, for growth. We feel it brings students together. It helps them develop their voices for both personal use as well as professional use. And believe me, there is plenty of use for storytelling in a professional manner. However, I want to say this. There are plenty of communication messages out there, ways. There's obviously entire degree programs and careers and industries built around different communication strategies and practices. Storytelling is not the only method. However, what storytelling offers is another way to communicate with another person in a more in-depth way. It's more of a human connection. It helps them feel the message, not just hear it. So when used well, storytelling can make ideas clearer. They make messages more memorable, and they help the audience see themselves in what you're saying. However, I'm also a big fan of showing versus telling, as we'll figure that out a little bit later on as well. So I'm going to start off with this little video that kind of showcases what I'm going to ask you while this video is playing. Take some notes, mental notes, physical notes, however you want to kind of just keep track of, how you felt while the story was playing, things that stood out, anything that was really memorable, or any kind of just shout outs that just made you think of something cool.
K-Vibe is about, you ready? K-Vibe is about change. I don't know, that's one of my hopes for these young ones. Change. On the news, you'll hear like Kalihi, a lot of shootings, a lot of fighting, a lot of homeless, a lot of struggles going on. Kalihi has challenges because the kids, they don't feel the love at home, so they gotta go out and, try to find that love. Junior year, I was going through a lot of things. I was looking for something to help me get off my feet and move forward, because I felt stuck. It didn't feel good. It didn't make me feel good. I felt weak. That was when I really came to K-Vibe. They kind of needed help, and I volunteered. If you live in Kali as one of the youths, you know that K-Vibe is not only a bike shop. K-Vibe is like their second home for the youth that's been through a lot of things, that's got trauma in their family. They start venting about, I'm not really doing good in school. Oh, my parents, they're not really helping me through this. K-Vibe, is there for them. We tell them they have to work 12 hours to earn a bike, helping us clean upstairs, helping us clean our garden. Just 12 hours, and whatever bike they pick, they earn it. The idea of a bike missing something, like missing a wheel, is like a kid missing something that's, not letting him move forward. And for that kid, I'll ask him, what's going on in his life. I'm gonna help him. I'm gonna give him what he needs to move forward.
Sorry, it cut out at the end there. We're just going to move forward with it. So throughout the rest of the workshop, I want to really kind of draw attention to why stories shape the attention they do, pulling on some of the emotion and the behavior. We're going to go through a really simple narrative structure, something that's very, very commonly used. And at the end, we're going to have an applied session where we kind of use some of these things in practice just to kind of see what it's like to form our own stories. So it's so magnificently put by Will Storr in his book, The Science of Storytelling. We're constantly taking in all these different signals from around us, like scattered signals, experiences, information, and the mind just kind of puts meaning to it, which is really, really, it's really interesting to think about. So think about it. If you see a man walking down the street at you and he's like visibly angry, your brain almost automatically tells you, get out of the way, move out of this person's way. You don't know. And your brain might go into some kind of danger sense where you could already kind of detect a little bit of possible harm. Interestingly enough, right after he walks away, you might start justifying it in your head. Why was this man angry? Why was he so upset? Maybe he woke up and just had a bad day. Maybe he got out of bed on the wrong side of the bed. Like, you can already kind of justify it based off of your own experiences. So when a story is being communicated to us, it drives that emotion and those emotional signals, and it helps us focus, and we're more likely to remember what was being said. As the story is being told, either via, written, video, sound, it doesn't matter. You start experiencing it. You'll start creating mental simulations of the story, which helps us get a little bit more engaged with it. We start connecting in with the characters in the story. And then it helps us, our brains will automatically start moving that information to a nice cause and effect relationship, helping us interpret different events, understanding outcomes, and then hopefully retaining the information over time. Now, persuasion experts talk about this constantly. Perloff, Gaston Cedar, narrative transportation theory from Green and Brock really, really showcases the impact of storytelling. We start identifying with the characters. We see ourselves in their experiences. In the video we just watched, you're watching a story about these children who are going to a bike shop and learning to build their own bike and doing hard work. And what's the reward from that? It is not going into a possible life of crime. And so if I was to say to you, well, over at that shop in Hawaii, they helped 10 kids get a bike. It's not really that impressive. It really doesn't shape any kind of behavior. It doesn't reduce the resistances. But if we start digging in and we go, well, the emotion behind that helps you identify with the character, because nobody wants to see crime in their neighborhood. Nobody wants to see misbegotten youth that doesn't know how to make their way in the world. So you automatically start taking the information a little bit more intently. And then at the end of the video, which I know we didn't get to see, there's a call to action talking about how you can support Movember and you can help support these mental health tools. And now you're more likely to go out and actually support one of those agencies through the power of storytelling. Now, storytelling often, I know there's a sentiment from time to time, well, it's just telling stories. That's what you do for little kids. That's just a fairy tale. But there's a lot of cases where stories show up in organizational impact. Internally, leadership communication. One of the most famous techniques that I can think of in speech writing, besides maybe the rules of threes, is storytelling, using storytelling to help convey emotion and an idea across. Think about employee onboarding. It's so much harder to just say you're a family and say that these are the rules for the company rather than explaining through different situations and different stories. Externally, of course, marketing campaigns, branding, storytelling, customer testimonials is a very strong showcase of it. And then for impact, of course, donor messaging, fundraise campaigns, program storytelling, and advocacy efforts. It's wide ranging, and these are just a couple of different examples of how we can use storytelling for organizational impact. I highlighted two cases here. One was the Dove Real Beauty campaign, which really helped showcase. If you're not familiar with it, in 2004, Dove launched a campaign where they had a woman come in and describe herself to an FBI artist, sketch artist, and he would draw their picture based off how they describe themselves. Then he would draw a picture of how they were described based off of a stranger's description of them after sitting with them for only an hour. They brought the women in to look at the pictures side by side, really showcasing how they view themselves versus how the world views them and what real beauty actually looks like. They're able to use this as a storytelling method by showcasing the point of change, right? The woman comes in and sees the picture and now has a different realization of how she looks. The same with the spring for the charity water story, really highlighting some really incredible needs and advocacy. I would highly recommend looking up the charity water video. Now, before we just say, yeah, it's easy to tell a story, we'll just make something up, we still have to have a couple of things in mind here. First, our target audience. Always, with any good communication methods, you want to have an audience defined. If you're not already defining psychographics and demographics here, you really want to understand, how do you want your audience to feel? What should they understand or see differently? And then for a call to action, what should this lead to? Every story should be able to answer those couple of questions, just so we know how to guide the viewer. Now, the meat and potatoes, the shape of a story. What we're going to be using throughout this is Freytag's pyramid, a common narrative arc. I know if you were with us a couple of weeks ago on our Moth workshop, we used something similar for our personal stories. I also wanted to give a shout out to some other story structures: Hero's Journey, 3-act structure, Pixar's Story Spine, Dan Harmon's Story Circle. There are a couple others as well. But for this, we're going to be using Freytag's pyramid, which is very, very simple. So we start off with an exposition. This is where the story starts. The initial incident where something might go wrong or something changes drastically in the character's life, forcing them to go on a journey of change. Then we go through the rising action, which is them going through the trials and tribulations, where we eventually hit a climax, which is the pinnacle of the story. And if you'll notice on the side, I have the word change highlighted. This is where the change is going to happen. And then falling action, resolution, is how the world is now afterwards for that character. And the denouement is, the after effects of that story. But to make a story great and have those emotional moments, we need to make sure that there's moments that people can latch onto. Tension, change, importantly change. You cannot have a story without change. Always driving in on certain meanings, and definitely driving in on specific details. Now, for the exposition, this is just a bit of advice for storytelling, which is start in the moment. Don't have this scene where two characters are standing there talking to one another saying, "Hey, how's it going? How are you?" It doesn't, you lose the attention of the audience, and it doesn't draw people in. So you want to make sure it's a specific observable point, that the person is in motion. If you watch any kind of movie, there's always a panning scene or someone walking somewhere. So moments engage the attention, and they already kind of start the process of trying to figure out what's going to come next. So this is where we're going to start kind of reflecting and just kind of building out a little story. So what I would like to do is pick one of the 3 quotes below. Someone just come off mute. I can't really see the screen to other people. So someone just come out mute and say one of those 3 quotes. And as we go through, we're going to build this story out a little bit.
He's running through the halls, almost jumping for joy.
Awesome. Shannon, thank you. So we can already kind of picture in our mind. We don't know how old the person that's jumping for joy. So Shannon, if you would, how old do we want this person to be? A kid, an adult?
I'm gonna say 37.
37. Perfect. Okay, so we have a 37-year-old man running down a hallway, jumping for joy. We're already going to start setting the stage with that. Now, really kind of feeling the moments here. Can someone tell me what the general emotion might be here and why?
I'll say nervous because it show a hall and the next picture shows the man biting his nail.
Mm-hmm. Nervous. And what you said, why was he nervous for?
Maybe he's nervous because he's getting a presentation in front of a crowd.
Okay. Yeah, nervous. So we're going into some meaning making here where we take a look at the man, he's biting his nail, and we go, oh, I've seen that pose before. I've seen other people who are nervous. And when you see a picture right next to it, okay, well, now we can assign some meaning to it. Maybe he's nervous because he's going to perform. Maybe he's nervous that he's going to miss the show, right? There's different things that we can build on now. Now, with this, what's the emotion now?
I think it's still worry. He's
Still
worried
worry?
about maybe
Yeah.
about an older loved one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now let me ask this. How different does the worry feel? Like how if you were to put like a stress on it?
Much deeper.
Much deeper. Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. So exactly. We've added these stakes, we've added these circumstances that are going to raise and heighten the situation of what the person's going through. Now, between both of these pictures, thinking of a story for an organizational setting, the first one could be one for classes selling public speaking, and all of a sudden you're no longer nervous, right? Because you're showing these nerves, and then the change would be showing the person going on stage and delivering a successful speech. Similarly here, if you were working for a medical company or a company that sold medication, maybe it is showing this person's nervous because his elderly parent is in the hospital, but they get the medication they need and it gets them back on their feet and they're able to return back out into the world, right? So it's not as grave anymore. Just different ways to showcase, show, don't tell. I mentioned it at the beginning. This is one of the most powerful tools in storytelling, which is the ability to kind of connect in with other people. Love the quote, "Don't tell me the moon is shining, show me the glint of light on broken glass." Really, not every scene has to be so beautifully vivid, but you definitely want to be able to slow down the moment. You want to be vivid and concrete. Use a verbal action. So like we just did previously, showing someone biting their nails, showing certain facial expressions. will automatically drive people's knowledge towards those emotions. Everybody has a basic understanding because we grow up with it. We observe from an infantile age, we observe facial features and behaviors of other people, and we start forming them ourselves. So we understand these things. Adding sensory detail. And so I have the picture of the ramen here. I love the fact that it was steaming because it really just added an extra sensory. Like I could feel myself hovering over this bowl of ramen and what that steam would feel like on my face and what it would feel like putting hot noodles into my mouth, right? Like you could start visualizing it, and food companies use these sensory details all the time to sell food. Look at McDonald's, look at Burger King. When they put out an ad for a Whopper or a McDouble or something, it is one of the most beautifully and sensationally looking foods you can possibly imagine. And it's nothing like that in real life when you go to get a burger, right? So these are different ways of just trying to add in some detail that will really help your story stand out as you're trying to drive action. Now, also would slow down the moment. This was a key thing from the Moth for personal storytelling. They talk about your moment of change being the moment that should be slowed down, right? Like that's the part of your story where everything should kind of come to a halt. If you're trying to drive anticipation, you're not going to just show the character instantly getting the rewards. You're going to show all of these different scenes where the character has to jump through a hoop. And then maybe you zoom in on the person's face and you see their sweat and maybe you see tears running down their face, something that's really going to drive the emotion. Now, taking that and then using it here. So making data human. This is one of my favorite parts. And I know we have an entire course at Hopkins, which is using storytelling for data. But one of my all-time favorite things is the idea of turning data into a story. And I use the Heath and Heath example here, where they talk about how a news reporter was trying to report out that movie popcorn had 37 grams of saturated fat in it, which is an impossible statistic to get across to the public, because whenever you give them a flat number like that, it kind of glosses over their head, because who really understands what 37 grams of saturated fat actually means if you're not in a nutritional or medical field. But changing that data to that's more saturated fat than you should eat in an entire day makes that a little bit more understandable. It makes it a little bit more palatable. And it actually ended up changing policies for how popcorn was served in movie theaters. So one of the best things and you can do is really highlight in on a specific character. If you're trying to represent an entire population, you hone in on one specific character. I have the picture of the bald eagles here because I remember them putting up live cameras to watch live bald eagles as they were nesting and rebuilding their population. And I believe the statistic was about 10,000 live viewers at any single time watching these bald eagles just go through their daily life. And at that point, you've now assigned these eagles characteristics, right? Like it's almost automatic. You're like, oh, they're so brave. They're courageous. Oh, look at their tenacity. Look how they're so caring and nurturing. And now you've associated yourself with this character, even if it is an animal. And then driving awareness to wildlife foundations and conservation efforts to help restore the bald eagle population, right? So when you're trying to get across points of data, it's the best isn't always just spitting out statistics. Sometimes it's realizing, how can we turn the statistic into a memorable moment in a story? Again, going back to the K-Vibe video that we watched at the beginning, it is much more memorable to realize that they are helping individuals regain their purpose in life from a young age, especially in an area that's so volatile with crime, and very, very easy to to lose kids to that. So it's much better to say something like that than it is to say, hey, 10 kids got a bike once, you know, or 10 kids worked and earned a bike. It's just a much more moving story to really tie that in with emotion. Now, curiosity, conflicts, and stakes, ways to make our stories a little bit more interesting. If you just have a story, and this is famously, I think of the artists and storytellers from South Park, because they gave a master class on storytelling, which is always adding but and therefore, right? If you say and then, a story will just die. It's no longer interesting. You know what happens, and you need some sort of trial. You need something to kind of get in the way that's going to stop people and go, oh, how did they overcome this? And that's where we're going to start using some of these principles. So curiosity, interestingly, is from Lowenstein's properties of principles of curiosity. If there's a missing piece in a story, your brain will automatically want to know what comes next, right? A familiar anchor in that story is trying to figure out something like, oh, I understand this, and then pulling it back in. But the longer you have that sustained tension, the better, right? So that's what we were talking about before, about slowing down a scene and really coming to a halt and not saying anything and letting tension build. And it's uncomfortable, but then when you have that resolution to the curiosity itself, it's that much more satisfying, and it helps sink you back into the story that much more. So this will help your audience lean in a little bit more. They'll mentally engage with the story. Sometimes they want to anticipate the resolution to it. A really, really famous, I don't want to say famous technique, but a technique used in personal storytelling is the crystal ball method, where as you're telling a story, you make a false prediction, right? And you go, well, I know what this person's thinking, and you slow down the story and explain out what you think that person is thinking or going through, and then it's a switch. It's not what they were thinking at all. And so something like that helps build the anticipation of like, oh, I know how this is going to end, but I'm going to watch. I want to make sure. I want to see the smile across the person's face, and then all of a sudden it's a frown, and there's a resolution. You understand it now, but it went in a different direction, so it kind of caught you off guard. Now, conflict introduces obstacles or opposition. You can't have a knight saving a princess if there's not a trial in the way, if there's not a dragon that he has to slay to get to the princess. You don't know if he's going to beat the dragon because it's 10 times bigger than he is. But, the character finds his gusto, he finds his bravery, he finds his will to overcome, and it reveals that character and meaning, and oh, he's stronger, and he beats the dragon. And that's where you start becoming a little bit emotionally invested with the character. You'll start empathizing. You want the knight to win because you want him to get his true love. You want to see him save the day. But the entire time that's happening, you're on the edge of your seat, right? You're sitting there really dialed in and paying attention, and you're waiting to see what happens. And again, this drives back from the curiosity. It's going to feed into the conflict. The curiosity is also going to feed into the stakes a little bit too. So the stakes is where we're going to clarify some of the consequences. In that same regard, the consequences, the stakes here are the fact that if the knight can't beat the dragon, he's going to die. He's going to get eaten by the dragon. Now that's again a little bit more outlandish, a little bit far out there consequence, but the same thing can be used. Going back to the example about maybe a person in the hospital that needs some help. The curiosity really comes in. Well, what's the answer behind the doctor? Like what answer is the doctor going to give the patient? Oh, the conflict is the doctor doesn't have an answer for the patient. He has no idea. He doesn't really know how to give them anything, right? That's still a conflict because the person still doesn't have a resolution to their issue, and the stakes are constantly filling up of what are going to be the next issue that this person's going to have if this problem doesn't get fixed, if this medical problem doesn't get fixed. and then you swoop in with a product. Here's the cure-all. Here's the thing that fixes this problem and gets the person back to where they need to be. Now, again, change. Change is everything. If you don't have change, again, if you don't have change in a story, you don't have a story. So change is the pinnacle. It's the difference between the way the world was and the way the world is now. We really, really highlight this in storytelling all over. We did our personal stories last week on our Story Slam, and it's all driving around the moment of change. How are things different? Again, so Shannon, we have a 37-year-old man skipping and hopping down the hall. You know, skipping can be a pretty dangerous act from time to time if you're not careful. So the man falls, breaks his leg, unfortunately. So now we have an incident. We have a starting point where he's jumping through the hall and he's broken his leg. That's the inciting incident. And now we're going to raise the stakes. Well, you know, he can't drive while his leg is broken. And on top of that, because he can't drive, well, now he can't get to work. And if he can't get to work, there's a chance that he gets fired, right? So now we have 3 different moments of stakes. What you're going to be showing in the character is this anxiety, this fear, maybe a little bit of frustration that he has little control over the issue. But then we hit our moment of change. And our moment of change can be, maybe it's a doctor's office that sells a specific product to help you get back on your feet a little bit stronger or a little bit faster. Maybe it is a physical therapist office that talks about rehabilitation. And then afterwards, what we would see is, you know, the man gets his leg fixed, and the following action is, well, he goes back to work and he's successful and he gets on with his life. And it's all thanks to this doctor's office. You'd end with a call to action. Here's the website. Here's our number. Call for a consultation. And they all lived happily ever after. Trevor, I saw your comment in the chat. Ambiguous endings, though. Gur, I want the resolution. Don't make me fill in the ending. I famously, right? To be continued. To be continued. To be continued. Every single great story will end with something like that if they're trying to keep you going, because it drives that curiosity. It makes you want to come back. It makes you want to see what happens next. I think that's why Netflix is so successful today with some of their things. It's called binge watching now for a reason, because you want that resolution. You don't want to let the curiosity go away. And so now we're going to do a fun activity. I'm going to break everyone into breakout groups. It looks like we have 18 participants on the call. So I'm going to do 3 breakout groups, and I'm going to share with you a Canva link. In that Canva link, you'll have editing access. You don't need to go super creative. I'm going to give you some examples in just a moment of what I'm talking about. But we're going to build out a storyboard, and we're going to start with a clear communication goal, a quick plan. We're going to build out a storytelling storyboard, and we're going to really define in some of the storytelling elements that we were talking about. So we want to make sure that we're adding in emotion. We want to make sure we're adding in some kind of stakes. Make sure you have a character, a moment of change, absolutely, and we'll map all of this out. So the organizations below are the organizations we'll work with. So just take those in, figure out which one you would want to do, and then discuss it amongst your group. We'll have a little bit of time. We're going to map out a storyboard, and then we're all going to come back together and kind of discuss out our stories real fast and see where they go. So here's the quick example for you before I stop sharing my screen. This will all be in your Canva link. So you'll have your goal, the positioning of what you're trying to do. And this is, for me, it was based off the K-Vibe thing in the beginning. So the overall goal in CTA was to encourage donations to support Movember and Movember supported programs, demonstrating how K-Vibe can positively impact mental health and well-being. Positioning, Community support empowers young men and builds boys to build connection, resilience, and hope. Target audience was adult men, parents and guardians, community advocates, corporate partners. And then some of the emotions. So based off the emotions and the elements that I've listed here, did anyone else note these? I know I said to take notes, and it was for this moment. If not, that's okay. But just want to reflect on it. Definitely try and add in some of the elements that you can build on. The peer mentorship for K-Vibe was really strong. K-Vibe itself as a safe haven was really strong. And then some of the stakes and stuff. So, and then what the storyboards will look like. Again, you don't have to be overly creative with it. I tried using different examples. Yes, Shannon, symbolism of the bike, notably, and I think I've noted it here. In the very beginning scene, there was a really hyperinflated, nostalgic bike sounds. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You hear the wheels spinning and the bell and stuff. And I'm like, awesome. Like you've already kind of hooked them in with some kind of sound. They introduce Bruce, they introduce K-Vibe in the general scenario, and then they instantly go into raising the stakes, right? Bruce talks about giving kids hope, and then as soon as he mentions hope, it's almost here's all these news reports that tell you all the bad things that are starting to happen in Hawaii, especially in that area. But through the power of K-Vibe, we're able to bring in those kids and give them purpose, give them a mentor, give them a sense of place. They make a specific comparison in the video comparing fixing bikes to fixing kids, which is really cool. And then we talk about the character himself, though, right? Bruce is the character of that story. And so as you're hearing all the wonderful things that's happening for the kids, it's really his transformation that you're listening to. So it's Bruce talking about how K-Vibe gave him a sense of purpose and how he's able to help the kids. And then it goes into the call to action and goes from there. Okay. I couldn't see everyone before because I had my screen up. How's everyone doing so far? I think we'll have a good amount of time for the activity. So, all right. I'm going to put 3 breakout rooms assigned automatically, and then I will pop in and share a link.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Okay, so for our communication campaign, we chose Lego, obviously. So our goal, well, first of all, so our target audience is with this campaign, we are targeting parents of children, obviously, and that would be children 4 to 12 years old, around that age range. And so essentially the goal of our campaign is that we want parents to think of Legos as a formative and invaluable experience for their children, and we're positioning it as that Legos are the tool for inspiring young minds and their creativity. So we have 3 emotions here, which I'll just quickly go through each of them because we envision it as like the structure of the story that we're going to tell. So the first emotion is ambivalent, meh. So you have a low expectation on the part of the parent. So, essentially you have a child who is building Legos, and then the parent steps on the darn Lego, as one does. And then they're so frustrated, they step out of the room. Originally we had an image with a woman leaving with her luggage, but don't worry, we removed that. She's not leaving the family. She's not that upset. She's just leaving the room. Okay, and then we go on to amazement and awe. So when the parent leaves the room, the girl actually ends up building a spaceship, a super awesome spaceship. So the parents have been ignoring her, but then they come into, yes, thank you, Ju, for the commentary, lovely. And then the parents come into the room, and then they see their child who has built, their young daughter who has built this spaceship, and they're like, whoa, that's unbelievable. And at the same time, we cut to a scene of Artemis landing, or I guess launching. It's either landing or launching. It's one of those. And then I already said, okay, the looking at the daughter, and whoa, okay. So now the story, which I kind of already said, but basically the package of the Legos arrives. The parents give it to their daughter. The daughter is playing with the Legos. the parent gets very angry and steps on the Lego. And then parents are ignoring the daughter. So they're just upset. They stepped on the Lego, they're frustrated. So they turn that doorknob really passionately and leave the room. But then they come back and they're watching the Artemis landing or the launching. I realized we didn't discuss that, so it's one of those. And then the kid makes an amazing spaceship. That's just a small taste of the spaceship that they made, and the parents are so amazed at the spaceship and the Artemis landing. And then we have the last page. Oh, see, that's okay, Shannon, that's a perfect picture from ChatGPT. Oh my God. They are so amazed at their daughter and what she has built. And they're like, wow, we're so proud of you. We should have never doubted you. And then we cut to the daughter is an astronaut. So she has achieved her dream through the Legos. And we finish with the tagline, start building blocks of dreams with Legos. Go to lego.com. So, the end. That's our story.
Fantastic job. That was great. That was great. Group two. Group two. Who wants to be the representative?
It's gonna be me and Mark. For this one, I think it's better to just hear it
Sure.
instead of like reading through it.
Yeah.
So I am gonna look for the notes because I just lost it. There's a lot of screens open here. But imagine, so similar, it's really interesting because it looks like the three of us pick Lego, and I'm curious if group three also talked about spaceships. So for us, imagine that there's a mom who's cleaning and she steps on a piece of Lego. And as you know, that's very relatable because like that evokes that emotion of pain and frustration and anger. But then you actually zoom out into this living room where the mom is cleaning. It highlights this expectation right now for moms to clean. And then in the background, you see Maya, who's 9 years old, building a spaceship just like group one, but with grandpa. And then as grandpa is working with Maya, you then see in the background as well, like the Artemis 2 landing in San Diego. And you remember that like that the emotions that we were feeling when we were watching that on the news. And grandpa was also remembering that 50 years ago, he was on the same spots watching. And now imagine the TV is like this old school big box with antennas and like there's no remote control. You have to like turn the button thing. And he was so excited then. And there was no Legos for spaceships then. And then imagine this, that as he was enjoying that, you get to then zoom in again, zooming back to the mom who just stepped on the Lego. And grandpa like crawled over really quickly and was so excited and picked up that small piece because that was actually the tip of the spaceship that Maya is trying to build. So Maya runs for grandpa, grabs that. So you're seeing already the intergenerational effects of this, fixes it to the top of that spaceship. And then, Mark, do you want to take the final piece of this?
Yes, let me do it. So like the next scene is when they put everything together. It's like now we finally accomplished this. And Maya hold up the space shuttle and the camera just from the same angle that you can see the Lego set and the Artemis 2 on the screen. They are together put in a frame. And everything just looks the same like it was like 50 years ago. And then next is our ending section. We just jump into like 50 years later. Now we can see the Artemis 10 on the screen. It's in the news. And then in this report, we can see that one of the astronauts is a young girl. And as the camera goes closer, we can realize that this young woman is holding a Artemis 2 Legos and a picture of her mom and her grandpa. They were like building this Lego maybe 50 years ago. And then the audience just realized that, oh, this is Maya. She realized her dream of being an astronaut, and now she's in the Artemis 10.
20
And for the
19.
like,
Go ahead, Mark.
and in the end, this Shreya mentioned this nationalism thing. Now, anyways, like in the news report, we can continue zoom out, and we can see this Lego, this photo, and there will be like stickers or like national flags in the frame to represent the little connection between the space exploration and nationalism, and then comes to our end.
The connection there is that we're cutting a lot of funding for NASA right now. And also, if you don't know this, last year, it used to be for generations that's the kids, they want to be an astronaut when they grow up. And last year it became they wanted to be an influencer. So this is our call to action, so that we want to bring back STEM, especially highlighting that representation of women being astronauts can start with a piece of Lego. Great job, group 2. I'm really excited about this work. I'm getting goosebumps everywhere.
That was, yeah, very well done. Very well done. Fantastic. All right, group 3.
Well, I nominate our wonderful teammates, Betty and Ling Yi, to represent us.
Yay. Thank you. Francis, can you help us to share the screen for our blogs?
Sure. Betty, I have a suggestion. Given the time constraint, we're 8 minutes over and our group is the last. Shall we just verbally describe our vision? And we may not get to the complete story, but maybe we can share with the group our positioning and our call to action. How about that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, thank you. And for our target audience, who really differentiates with the previous 2 group, which is amazing. I heard a lot of amazing stories here. So we're trying to target our senior citizens, maybe after retirements, they are being lonely at home. First thought pop up in my head is like they're lonely, they want to reconnect to the world, and our lovely Francis help us to revise it to say like maybe to use Lego as a tool to rebuilding the relationship with their grandchild, with new generations, and so we positioning communities and relationships, and our emotion is trying to shift from loneliness to curiosity, and later on to maybe rebuild connection and feel joy. And so our elements for this now, should we just let Lingy to share the whole stories? I believe that's more helpful.
You did a
Yeah.
great job, Betty. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I will introduce the picture of our presentation. And for the first picture, we can see that there is an older man sitting by himself at home. And he's looking out the window, and the whole image feels like quiet and a little bit lonely. So for us, this shows the starting point of the story. After retirement, some seniors may suddenly lose their daily routine, so they do not go to work every day, and they may not talk to as many people as before. So the picture represents loneliness and the disconnection. And for the second picture, the mood starts to change because the senior is now in building at Lego with a younger family member, maybe his grandson. So this is the turning point of the story. Lego gives them something easy and fun to do together. They do not need to have a serious conversation first. They can simply sit together and build something and naturally start talking. So Lego just works like a bridge between generations. Yeah, just like our target audiences. And for the final picture, we can see the final change is that the senior is no longer alone. They're sitting with their other seniors, smiling and laughing together. So this shows that Lego can become more than just a toy. So the story moves from the loneliness to connection and finally to the joy. So overall, our story shows like Lego can help seniors reconnect with people around them and build meaningful relationships across generations. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Everyone did a fantastic job. I do think it was funny that everyone picked Lego, and everyone had a few key elements that crossed over. We talked about intergenerational use for Legos and connection. I think almost every story had like a senior at some point, either mom, grandpa. This one about community building. All of them positioning Lego as a change, and I can quite literally visualize in the story with the spaceships like the red brick going and snapping on top, and as soon as the brick snaps on top, it's a quick cut to her pressing the launch button in the rocket ship, right? Like just showing that, like, what an easy connection to make. And then all of a sudden it's, you don't just buy Legos to have fun, you buy Legos so you become someone. Like it sends this message, like you play Legos, you get an interest, you may become an astronaut. So yeah, very, very well done. We would discuss it out a little bit more detail if we had more time, but we're already 15 minutes over, and I feel terrible about that. So, thank you, everybody. This was the first workshop that StoryLab was able to do, from a student-run workshop that StoryLab was able to do. We're very, very grateful for everyone coming tonight. I really hope that you're going to walk away with some information. I will have the recording up. I'm going to have to edit it a little bit because when I was bouncing around to the different groups. So we will have a recording up on YouTube. You'd be able to rewatch it. And yeah, everyone have a fantastic night. Thank you so much for coming.
Matt, thank you so much. Big round of applause for you.
Thank you.
That was great.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you,
Amazing, Matt.
everyone.
Loved it.
Fast.
Thank you, everyone.